Ashe, and welcome to another special episode of our Mandatory Mental Liberation series, produced by our esteemed elder Baba Jelani Bamani Dembe, the brilliant founder of Majestic Mind Matters University. I'm your royal narrator, Queen Magical Melanin, for this new episode. The necessity of the Mandatory Mental Liberation series at Majestic Mind Matters University lies in our focus on serving our melanin-rich culture nation. By addressing the importance of knowledge of self to produce greater self-awareness and advocating for our mental liberation, especially for our precious melanin-rich culture children, our messages aim to combat the enduring effects of generational mental enslavement stemming from the historical trauma of the chattel enslavement of the ancestors. Our initiative seeks to empower us to break free from these harmful and unfavorable legacies and cultivate a deep-rooted sense of self-identity and unwavering resilience. In a world where words carry weight, these terms hold a history of oppression and discrimination. Our melanin-rich culture nation has not given up on the fight for liberation. We know that terms like black or brown people, people of color, perpetuate stereotypes and homogenize our melanin-rich culture people. In this message, it will only be used to maintain clarity for those who are not yet up to our melanin-rich culture standards. By embracing indigenous terms like Alkebulan, this name means mother of mankind, in various African languages such as Akuyu, Swahili, and Kemet, referring to ancient Egypt, and rejecting the terms Africa or African, these oppressive terms, which are unknown to many, we are reclaiming our melanin-rich culture narratives and asserting our royal cultural pride. Our melanin-rich culture nation uses terms like chattel enslavement instead of slavery, and the enslavers rather than masters, to highlight the brutal and dehumanizing nature of historical and systemic oppression. The term chattel enslavement emphasizes the objectification of the ancestors as property, rather than acknowledging them as humans. Referring to oppressors as the enslavers instead of masters shifts the focus to the injustice and violence perpetrated by those in power. These terms accurately reflect the systemic exploitation and inhumanity faced by our melanin-rich culture communities throughout history, challenging traditional narratives that downplay the severity of these atrocities. Knowing the power of language in shaping global societal perceptions and challenging systemic racism is our first step to true liberation. Now, let's get started with this very special message titled, The Mirage of Inclusion, Unpacking Our Melanin-Rich Culture Voting Realities. As melanin-rich individuals, it is crucial for us to understand that our participation in voting is often framed as an illusion of inclusion, rather than a true representation of our voices and needs. This realization is important in order to dismantle the systems of oppression that continue to marginalize and disenfranchise our communities. For too long, melanin-rich communities have been targeted by voter suppression tactics that seek to limit our ability to participate in the democratic process. From strict voter ID laws to gerrymandered districts, there are numerous barriers in place that make it difficult for us to exercise our right to vote. These tactics are often used by those in power to maintain their control and uphold systems of white supremacy. By understanding that our participation in voting is often manipulated and restricted, we can begin to challenge these oppressive systems and fight for true representation and equity. Furthermore, even when we are able to cast our ballots, it is crucial for us to recognize that the political system is often designed to prioritize the needs of the affluent and privileged, rather than our own. Politicians often make empty promises and pander to our communities during election seasons, only to ignore our voices and concerns once they are in office. This cycle of exploitation and neglect perpetuates the illusion that our participation in voting is making a difference, when in reality, our needs continue to be overlooked and ignored. In addition, the political system is inherently skewed in favor of those with wealth and power, making it difficult for us to truly influence change through the act of voting alone. Big money in politics often dictates the agendas of elected officials, leading to policies that benefit the elite at the expense of marginalized communities. This means that even when we do participate in voting, our impact is limited by the influence of corporate interests and wealthy donors. Understanding this reality is crucial for us to push for structural changes that will create a more equitable and just political system. It is also important for us to recognize that our struggles are interconnected with other marginalized communities, and that true liberation can only be achieved through solidarity and collective action. By understanding that our participation in voting is often a facade of inclusion, we can work towards building coalitions with other marginalized groups to challenge systems of oppression and demand justice for all. Together, we have the power to disrupt the status quo and create a more equitable society that values the lives and voices of all its citizens. Ultimately, it is crucial for us to critically examine the ways in which our participation in voting is limited by systemic barriers and oppressive structures. By understanding that our voices are often silenced and our needs neglected within the current political system, we can begin to demand real change and advocate for a more inclusive and equitable society. Through education, organizing, and collective action, we can work towards a future where our melanin-rich communities are truly represented and empowered in the decision-making processes that affect our lives. Let us come together, raise our voices, and strive for a world where our participation in voting is not just an illusion of inclusion, but a reality of true democracy and justice for all. As melanin-rich individuals, it is crucial for us to understand the limitations of voting participation in order to navigate the democratic system with awareness and intention. While voting is often hailed as the cornerstone of democracy, it is important for us to recognize that it is not a panacea for all of our political challenges. In fact, simply casting a ballot does not guarantee that our voices will be heard or that our interests will be represented in decision-making processes. One of the key reasons why voting participation may not ultimately lead to inclusion in decision-making processes is the presence of systemic barriers that disproportionately impact marginalized communities, including those with melanin-rich skin. These barriers can take many forms, such as voter suppression tactics, gerrymandering, and lack of access to polling places. Additionally, there may be cultural and societal factors at play that discourage certain groups from participating in the electoral process, such as feelings of apathy, disillusionment, or distrust in the political system. By recognizing these barriers, we can better understand the limitations of relying solely on voting as a means of political participation. While casting a ballot is an important civic duty, it is not the only way to influence decision-making and create change in our communities. In fact, there are a myriad of other ways that we can engage in the political process and advocate for our interests, ranging from direct action and protest to community organizing and advocacy. Understanding the limitations of voting participation can also motivate us to push for structural reforms that promote greater inclusivity and diversity in government. This may involve advocating for policies that increase representation of marginalized groups in political leadership positions, such as implementing affirmative action measures or creating quotas for underrepresented communities. By working towards a more diverse and inclusive government, we can ensure that our voices are heard and that our concerns are taken into account in the decision-making process. Furthermore, acknowledging the limitations of voting participation can inspire us to explore alternative avenues for political engagement that may be more effective in advancing our goals. This can include getting involved in grassroots organizing efforts, volunteering with advocacy organizations, or participating in community-based initiatives that empower marginalized communities to have a say in the decisions that affect their lives. By taking collective action and working together, we can amplify our voices and create meaningful change in our society. Understanding the limitations of voting participation is essential for us as melanin-rich individuals to navigate the democratic system with intention and purpose. While voting is an important aspect of democracy, it is crucial for us to recognize that it is not the only way to influence decision-making and create change in our communities. By acknowledging the barriers that may prevent us from fully participating in the electoral process, we can work towards creating a more inclusive and equitable political system that takes into account the perspectives and needs of all individuals. By advocating for structural reforms, supporting grassroots organizing efforts, and exploring alternative avenues for political engagement, we can empower ourselves and our communities to have a voice in shaping the future of our society. As a collective group, we have a responsibility to encourage and support melanin-rich individuals to run for political office. Representation matters, and having diverse voices in government ensures that policies and decisions reflect the needs and experiences of all members of society. By providing resources and mentorship to aspiring candidates, as well as creating a supportive network for them, we can help to break down barriers and make political leadership more accessible to everyone. In addition to supporting individual candidates, we must also advocate for changes to electoral processes and systems that may disproportionately disadvantage melanin-rich individuals. Voter suppression laws, gerrymandering, and other forms of voter disenfranchisement undermine the principles of democracy and prevent marginalized communities from fully participating in the political process. We must push for reforms that ensure fair and equitable elections for all, regardless of race or background. One key area where reform is needed is campaign finance. The current system often favors candidates with wealth and connections, leaving many talented individuals unable to compete on a level playing field. By advocating for campaign finance reform, we can help to level the playing field and give all candidates an equal opportunity to run for office based on their ideas and qualifications, rather than their financial resources. Furthermore, we must support initiatives that aim to increase voter turnout among melanin-rich communities. Voter education programs, efforts to make voting more accessible, and grassroots organizing can all help to empower marginalized communities and ensure that their voices are heard at the ballot box. By working to increase voter engagement and turnout, we can strengthen our democracy and ensure that everyone has a say in shaping our collective future. Addressing systemic racism and discrimination in government institutions is another crucial step towards achieving greater diversity and representation in politics. Diversity and inclusion policies, anti-bias training, and affirmative action programs can help to create more equitable opportunities for all individuals, regardless of race or background. By advocating for these policies and working to eliminate barriers to entry for melanin-rich individuals, we can create a more inclusive and representative government. Collaboration with grassroots organizations and community leaders is essential in building a coalition around the goal of achieving greater diversity and representation in government. By working together with like-minded individuals and organizations, we can amplify our voices and make a greater impact on the political landscape. Through collective action and solidarity, we can bring about positive change and create a more just and inclusive society for all. Raising awareness about the importance of diverse representation in government is also key to our efforts. By educating our communities about the benefits of having a government that reflects the true diversity of our society, we can inspire more individuals to get involved in politics and advocate for change. By engaging with policymakers and elected officials, we can push for structural reforms that promote greater representation and diversity in government, such as implementing proportional representation systems or increasing the number of seats reserved for minority groups. In conclusion, by working together on these and other initiatives, we can help to create a more inclusive and representative government that reflects the true diversity of our society. Through our collective efforts and advocacy, we can make a difference in the political landscape and ensure that all individuals have a voice in shaping our shared future. Together, we can build a more just and equitable society for all. I'm your royal narrator, Queen Magical Melanin. We trust that this very special message has expanded your understanding through the insights shared by our highly esteemed producer, Elder Baba Jelani Bamani Dembe, founder of Majestic Mind Matters University, in our Mandatory Mental Liberation Series special message. Remember this, it is essential to honor the ancestors. We have a unique connection to the ancestors. They endured many unwarranted struggles, preserved our melanin-rich culture, and passed down invaluable wisdom through many generations. By honoring the ancestors, we pay honorable tribute to our roots and draw great strength and much-needed inspiration from the unwavering resilience and royal legacy that has paved the way for our present and future generations. Ancestral reverence is a powerful way for us to continually uphold our own melanin-rich identity, heritage, and cultural legacy. Here is an ancient Alkebulan proverb to keep in mind. If you think you are too small to make a difference, you have not spent the night with a mosquito. Remember this as well, whenever you are in the presence of anyone, saying, "They don't see color," it actually means, "They don't see you." We acknowledge and honor The indigenous name of our glorious continent as Alkebulan, this name means Mother of Mankind. In various African languages such as Akuyu, Swahili, and Kemet, referring to ancient Egypt and rejecting the terms Africa or African. As royal members of our melanin-rich culture nation, we must strive for knowledge of self for greater personal awareness. Always treat yourself kindly and seek to live a totally awesome and gloriously fulfilling melanin-rich culture. Life. The only way to do great work is to love what you do. So, like, subscribe to stay updated, and share this very special melanin-rich culture link with everyone that you care about and that really cares about you and all of yours as well. And thank you for listening to this enchanting special message titled The Mirage of Inclusion, Unpacking Our Melanin-Rich Culture Voting Realities. Stay woke. Ashe.